am here to talk about my ninth Victorian book of 2023. I can't believe I'm here talking about the ninth one. It doesn't feel like that many, but I think I am just really in the mood to read Victorian literature steadily throughout the year. And I am here to talk about Can You Forgive Her? What a masterpiece this book is. Now, I have to say that this book took me 3 tries to get into. It starts off really slow, in my opinion. I think, though, I've heard other readers read it and are engaged with it immediately. That was not the case for me. I think it was probably around 200 pages that it took me to love this. I did the majority of my reading listening to David Shaw Parker. His narration just is Trollope to me. He has this very clipped, pristine kind of voice, and it just fits Trollope so very well. So now I'm spoiled and I have to listen to the rest of the Palliser series with him narrating it. And this one, I think it was that maybe the world building in the very beginning is overwhelming. I'm not sure exactly what it is. So that was about 6 hours of audio that it took me to become slowly converted to it. In those first 6 hours, I thought about DNFing it all over again. But I thought, you know what, just keep persevering, Kate. You know, there are so many Trollope fans that really love Can You Forgive Her? Keep trying with it. See what happens. I'm so glad that I did now because it's in, I think, my top 3 Anthony Trollope books now. I absolutely adored this book, and it was just the kind of Victorian novel that I was in the mood for. So this year, the Victorian literature that I'm really gravitating towards are the domestic realism category. So Chantry House by Charlotte Mary Young, and then The Perpetual Curate. Those are ones that as soon as I pick them up, I'm like, yes, this is like the subgenre of Victorian literature that I'm in the mood for. And I really am excited to continue to follow these characters. Many people, just anytime I talk about wanting to read Can You Forgive Her, said, oh, I can't wait for you to meet Lady Glencora. And I really love Lady Glencora. And Trollope has this really beautiful gift of giving you characters that are clearly very flawed. Lady Glencora is not always the wisest. She's not always going to make the best decisions, but there's something so winning about her despite that. Something about her is so winsome. And I do think she goes on quite a journey by the end of it. And I think it's also her kind of feistiness that I really appreciate. She is definitely not this boring character to read about. She fascinates me. And I love seeing... I just love seeing her interacting with different characters and the journey that she goes on. There were some plot lines that really did put me on edge with her, like what is going to happen. But since I was reading an Anthony Trollope novel, I thought, you know what, I am in safe hands. It's going to be okay. I just need to trust that it will be not too tragic. Nothing too tragic will happen. And I thought it was really interesting then to see Lady Glencora kind of paralleled but also contrasted with Alice Vavasor. And to see those two characters, and Alice sees the decisions that Lady Glencora has made and then kind of reevaluates her own. The thing about this book that really I did just relish was there is a darker element to this story with the character of George Vavasor. And I was telling my friend Elizabeth that it felt like a Wilkie Collins novel. It felt almost like Anthony Trollope trying to write a Wilkie Collins novel, and I think it worked really well. And I think it's because, and this is something that Charles Dickens is good at, that Katie from Books and Things, I've heard her say he's good at balancing light and dark within the same story. And I think now in modern publishing, everything has to be in a specific genre, and so you can't always have that balance between the two. And this novel, I just loved the beautiful mixture that it was. And it made the contrast with the darker elements, made the lighthearted elements all the more rewarding and just delicious. And something about those two being paired up within the same story, I found absolutely captivating. I was concerned about how much political plot lines were going to be involved in the story and whether it would be confusing to me. In the political chapters, I was definitely not as interested. But that being said, I still really loved this book, so it didn't make me not love this book. And I really appreciated like most of Trollope's books, it feels very slice of life. You're there with the characters doing daily life. They reference the different times in the year, and one of my favorite chapters is when Alice and Kate Vavasor are on a walk around Lake Windermere on Christmas Day. That to me was just really memorable, and I loved Alice and Kate's friendship, and that to me is a really beautiful picture of a friendship of when you are loyal, kind of no matter what anyone else thinks, no matter what happens in other relationships with your friend, you know that you are going to be a true friend, and you have a regard for them. You have a respect, and you respect whatever decision that they make. So I thought the friendship between Alice and Kate was very beautiful. And I loved the character of Alice as well. She wasn't quite up there for me as Lady Glencora, because she was a little bit, I don't know. I think she just wasn't quite as interesting to me. And then the one thing, though, that I was really bothered by, so Plantagenet Palliser, who's married to Lady Glencora, I felt like he did not defend himself and stand up to her nearly as much as he could. Like, he was a major doormat, and that really bothered me. I think that when your spouse, whether it's a husband to a wife or a wife to a husband, when they're doing something really inappropriate, you should have the guts to stand up to them and say. And I just thought he was kind of like, oh, it's okay, and just kind of put up with whatever she did and didn't act like there are real consequences when you kind of step out of line as much as Lady Glencora did. So that really frustrated me about him, because you're killing them with kindness then. Then there are all these extra problems that happened that actually could have just been squashed out immediately had he more stepped up to the plate. So that element of the story did frustrate me. So I will be eager to follow Lady Glencora and Plantagenet Palliser's marriage in the upcoming stories. So I just over the moon that I read it, and those first 6 hours I was questioning, do I want to read this whole novel? And then it was so delightful to finally fall in love with it, and then have hours and hours and hours left, because the audiobook was 33 hours long. And I was just so excited to have such a long audiobook to savor. So I am not sure quite when I will be reading Phineas Finn, but definitely sometime late spring or in the summertime, because my idea would be to read the Eustace Diamonds during Victober. It seems very pulpy and fun to read during Victober. Right now, I have several Victorian books on the go. The first is a buddy read, and that is Poor Miss Finch. And I'm reading it with my friend Rainey, who has the channel Rainy Day Reads, and my friend Elizabeth, and then my friend Jess. And Jess is, dear readers, this is Jess on Instagram. And Elizabeth is Elizabeth Brink on Instagram. I will link them all down below because they're really fun to follow on social media. And we are having so much fun with this book. So it's a really interesting Wilkie Collins. So far, the characterization I'm loving, and it's intriguing. It starts off kind of with more gentle domestic elements, but it's fascinating. Then I also am reading one book a month of Aurora Leigh by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. It is absolutely stunning. I'm just savoring every word. And I just finished book 3 today, so my mind is reeling from everything that happened in that. And then lastly, I have just started The Idols of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I know the British pronunciation is Idols, but I just can't bring myself to, I feel like I'm pretending when I say it. It just doesn't come naturally to me, so I'm just calling it The Idols of the King. And it is a little bit daunting. So I think that's one I will take my time with. I have the Kindle book, and I'm doing immersion reading, so I'm listening to it on audio while I look at the text in front of me. And so I was thinking it was going to be like Aurora Leigh in how approachable it is, and it's more like the Fairy Queen. and it's got lots of things to do with the Arthurian legends, which is very fun and romantic with a capital R. And something that it's a piece I'm pretty sure the pre-Raphaelites really loved. So really just having so much fun with Victorian literature. Thank you for joining me on my journey. I will be back with another video soon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.